Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Redneck Racing. In today's video, we're going to be diving into the fuel system on the 66 Skylark project. So as you can see behind me already, we got a little bit ahead of ourselves and got the fuel cell pretty much all the way put in. So the first thing I'm going to do right now is I'm just going to show you guys kind of how we got this set up in here. I'm also going to be showing you guys kind of how we made our own fuel cell straps. This is the same thing we did on Peter's car. We did it again for my car. Method seems to work pretty good. It's a little bit cheaper than buying them from Summit Racing or Jeg, so I'll show you guys how we got that set up. Here's what she looks like in the car. It's not completely 100% finished yet. We still want to get some foam pads to put underneath here. It's just the whole cell is just a little bit loose. You can hear it rattling around a little bit. The bolts also aren't tight right there. So basically what this is just 3/4 inch flat bar. I'm not exactly sure how thick it is, maybe 1/8 of an inch, a little bit less. You can get this from Tractor Supply, Ace Hardware, really anywhere, Menards, Fleet Farm. I don't know if they got Fleet Farms everywhere, but you can just get it at any hardware store. And yeah, you basically just need to put it in a vise and measure where to make your bends and bend it up. Underneath here, what we got to hold the whole thing in, as you can see, we put in 2 pieces of angle iron across. I just welded it to the frame there, and then here and there. And then what we did is we put 1/4-20 bolts through the bottom and then just tack the bolts in. So they stick up right there. Makes it real easy to put a nut and a washer on there and then tighten everything down. Next thing we're going to be ended up doing is running the rest of the fuel lines. So I think my main plan for that is I've got the fuel pump, I've got a pre-filter, the pump, and a post-filter. And I'm thinking that's all going to get mounted along this passenger side frame rail somehow. I already got that fitting on there, and then I'll probably have a 45-degree fitting on the filter over here. And then hopefully we'll be able to get the filter and the pump kind of in here somewhere. Maybe we'll have to mount that to the floor. And then we're going to have to figure out how we're going to, or where we're going to put the post filter. So the big main filter, I'm guessing maybe up there, or maybe we'll put that closer up to the front of the car too, right before the fuel pressure regulator. I'm not exactly sure. There's 2 places I could put the fuel pressure regulator. I could put it right back here basically, and then run a quick return back to the fuel tank. And the reason I could do that is because the entire system here is going to be deadheaded. So the stock fuel rails and the stock intake manifold, the only way to really run it without changing a whole bunch of stuff is to deadhead it. So my plan as of right now is normally the throttle cable mounts on these 4 bolts. I'm thinking of making another bracket that stands off to the side right here and then mounting the fuel pressure regulator right there. The only problem with that is there's a lot of unnecessary hose. Like I was saying, the fuel pressure regulator could certainly just be back by the fuel tank, and then I wouldn't have to run a line all the way up here and all the way back. However, if I was just to run one solid line all the way up here and have the regulator in the back, there could be a lot of built-up heat in that line. It's not cycling the fuel across the fuel rails as quickly. Well, I guess with a deadhead system, it's never cycling the fuel across the fuel rails. Basically, it would be better to have the regulator as close to the injectors as possible. So I'm thinking I'm still going to just put the regulator up here, and I'm probably going to have to get a little bit more fuel line. So there's the part number for this pump, 50-1005. I think it's like 100, I want to say it's 100 PSI fuel pump. Well, here's all the specs for it. It's 400 liter per hour. I think it goes up to 100 PSI, so it should be good for all the boost. or 120 psi. It'll make whatever boost I want it to make, basically. The 400 liters per hour is going to be pushing it. They had I don't think they have it in the box here, but there's a chart that showed how much boost you can run with the fuel pump. And on gasoline, the pump would be able to run, from my approximations, about 15 psi of boost at 800 horsepower, which is about what I'm shooting for on this, except that it would need to be gasoline, and I don't think I'm going to be able to run leaded race gas with the wideband O2 sensor, because that doesn't exactly work very well. But enough of the specs. I'll show you what we have for a setup down here in more detail. So the sump on the fuel cell has 2 outlets. I'm only using one of them. When I do put a turbo on it, I'm probably going to have to add another fuel pump, and then we'll wind up using this. You can see where the return is going through the floor up there. You guys could probably see that when I was back up on top, where I kind of got the return running. And then this is, we got going up and over here. And then the trickiest part of this whole thing was trying to figure out where I was going to go with the fuel line, getting it through like the triangle boxes where they narrowed the back of the car. And we were looking at different ideas of putting it through maybe one of those holes right there, but it was just it was going to be in the way of the tires or in the way of the ladder bars. And so in the end, we just are going to zip tie it to the bottom of that. So we got that just loosely in place right now. I don't have those zip ties tightened all the way down yet, because I want to be able to fish these through with the fittings on them later. And those zip ties were a pain in the butt to try and loop around in there without being able to stick your hand up on the top to get into the hole. So we'll have them running up to the front, and then what I'm working on right now is a spot for the main fuel filter. So this is also from AEM. It's I think this one's a 7 micron. It's a big boy, basically. It can flow, I think it said like 2,000 horsepower worth of methanol. And so my plan for where I want to go with this is like right here on the front of the car. So there's, for reference, there's the front tire and the oil pan and everything. And I think this is just gonna get mounted to like the floor pan on the passenger side, like where your feet would go as a passenger. Put it in here at a little bit of an angle, and I'm just gonna drill 2 holes in the floor and get this all dialed in here. And then we'll start working on making some of these fittings and go up by the regulator. So here's the situation up front that we got going on. I got both the feed and the return line coming up along the inside of the frame rail right there. And I'm pretty sure if what I've been looking at is correct, it should all clear the header. So if we get this kind of up in there approximately where it's gonna go. We're looking at, we got enough clearance there. Not a whole lot, but should be good enough. And then the way I got the regulator set up is I just made a little bracket that hooks onto where the throttle linkage goes to, and then also bolts in the screw down there that holds the fuel rail on. The regulator is also an AEM. Pretty much all of the main components of the fuel system are AEM brand, because it's made by Holley or marketed by Holley, and it was a lot cheaper than the Holley stuff. So anyways, the way I've got this regulator set up is I'm going to be running a deadhead system on this intake. So the way the GM stock manifolds are set up is they're, I believe, deadheaded from the factory, or at least it's going to be very easy to just set up a deadhead system. So the feed is going to come in right here. This is going to be the pressure going out to the fuel rails, and this is going to be the return. I'm pretty sure the other way you can set these up is you have feed in here with pressure behind that, and then this as the return. So those are the two ways to do it. You can either deadhead or have a like a circulating system where the fuel's constantly flowing over the rails. This way the fuel is constantly going to be going like this, and then only the pressure that we need to the fuel rails is coming out here. There'll be pressure here and here is what it regulates, and then this is not regulated. You never want to hook up your pressure in the return line. So have the fuel pressure regulator before the fuel rails, and then have this go out to the fuel rails. That doesn't regulate any pressure at all, because that's just it's just open atmosphere. It's basically venting the fuel pressure to the back to the tank. So there's no pressure there at all. The pressure is here and here. So, or at least for this regulator it is. And then there's a gauge port right there, so I'll probably just put a gauge right there. It's nice on a perfect angle for viewing it. And then my boost reference is right here, which that is just going to get a cap on it for right now, but it would eventually get run to the intake or to the charge pipe, or to a manifold pressure somewhere in there. The inlet for the fuel rails is on the other side, so it'll probably just have it come out with a 45, come underneath the throttle body, and then go into there. So the stock fuel fitting on the GM intake manifold fuel rail system has a weird coupling right here, and then a little bit of like braided flexible hose, and then it goes into a hard line. And what you can do is you can go to O'Reilly's, or I think I actually got mine at Fleet Farm. They make these little tools that wraps around the tube, and you push it in here, and it forces the little prongs in, and you can take that fitting off, and then you can get adapter fittings that adapt the hard line to an AN line, or an AN fitting. And I was a little bit skeptical when I first got that, because I'd never heard of anything like that, but it seems to work pretty well. So I just got this. It goes from a 3/8 hard line to a -8 AN, and then I have a -8 to -10 adapter. All the fuel lines I have in the entire system are -10. So all the fittings, all these fittings, the blue and red fittings that I got are all -10. All the hose that I got is -10, and then I just had to get a bunch of different adapters. All the adapters are the black ones. The regulator came with -6 on everything, so I had to do -6 to -10. Everything should be good to go on this. I just got to make fitting ends on these, cut these ones to length, cut that one, and then run this one up here. It's gonna get run up to right there, like that. So I'll probably put a piece of tape on it right up here somewhere, cut it off, put 2 more fittings on it. This one will get a straight fitting, yeah, and then that fitting will go on the other one, and then just got to run one underneath the throttle body, and the fuel system should be done. Well, folks, that's going to wrap up the fuel system installation on the old 66 Skylark here. It's pretty much 100% done. There's one line up in the front that I gotta make yet. I'm missing the fitting. I got it ordered. Hopefully it'll be here next weekend, but it says it's not supposed to ship for like 2 weeks, but it's Amazon, so they might be lying. Anyways, it's the line that goes from here over to there. I got the hose for it. I wanted to get a 45-degree fitting on here instead of doing a straight fitting and having the hose come out in here. It would be a lot cleaner to just get a 45 fitting off of the regulator and shoot down under the throttle body and go over there. But other than that, everything is done. The fuel pump needs to get wired, obviously, but we'll do wiring everything up in a different video. I'll show you guys how all that kind of works. So when we got the exhaust manifold on, it should be out of the way enough. There's a little tab down there that I might throw some zip ties on. A lot of this stuff needs some more zip tying, even down underneath here. I'd like to throw a couple more zip ties in. I got it tucked up inside the frame rail right now, but just throwing a couple more zip ties around in there just to make sure it stays up in there. I got it zip tied all back up in here nicely. Hopefully whatever size tire I run in here doesn't interfere with any of that. I don't really think it will. It's pretty tucked up into the side. And yeah, and everything else back there with the pump and the return line and the pre-filter, that's all how it was before, like you guys saw before. So that's going to do it for today's video. Make sure you guys stay tuned. Like I said, we'll be doing a wiring video. I got the motor almost put together, so that video will probably be coming out next. And see you guys in the next video.